Hey guys, what's going on? Sean with Butler Branding. I thought it'd be kind of cool to give you an inside look at behind the scenes of part of our process, and specifically how do we go from strategy to design. A lot of times there's a bit of mystery. How do you go from a concept to something tangible or something that you can actually see when it comes to graphics? And so today we're going to be sitting with one of our designers, Chris Orozco, who's the mastermind behind a lot of the designs you've been seeing from Butler in more recent days. And we're going to show you a couple of different approaches that he takes, because not every design is the same. Sometimes there's design for a logo or for an ad or for a publication. And so let's kind of pick his brain to see what he's thinking to go from strategy to design. Come on inside. All right, guys, meet Chris Orozco. He is one of the newer members of the Butler team, and he's the man responsible for a lot of the design work that's been coming out of Butler in more recent days. Chris, how long have you been doing design?
I've been designing for about 7 years, 3 years professionally.
Okay, and so Chris, I put out an interesting ad when we were looking for a graphic designer for help, and basically I came up with the ugliest ad design I could think of, and I wanted someone to basically tear it apart and make something better, and Chris's response was actually the best out of all of them. And so when I saw the things that Chris looks for in design, that's definitely one of the things that we wanted to bring in-house. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to get a behind-the-scenes look at his process, because it's one thing to strategize with clients what conceptually a website should look like or a brand identity system should look like. And we try to do our best to take like abstract words or abstract ideas and put words to them and then give them to you. And then somehow there's this mystery or magic that you convert that into something that looks beautiful and it's on point with the brand. And so I'm interested to see your process, and I think that's kind of what we're going to do today. So there's different types of designs that we're going to be talking about. So the first type is what I think is your favorite type of design, right? Which is branding.
Yeah.
Branding. Okay, so why is it your favorite?
I just love the freedom that it gives me. I think it allows me to show the best that I can do.
Okay, and what is like the worst soul-sucking type of work you could
Usually
think of?
production.
What does that
work,
mean?
like stuff that you don't really get to do anything creative. It's just mostly just plugging in information and
Clicking buttons, mindless,
Yeah.
someone with no talent could do it. Gotcha. Okay, so, and we're going to be using an example today for an actual client of ours, Mid-India Christian Mission. And so if you know nothing about an organization, so this particular company we're doing a redesign for. And so if you know nothing about an organization, what do you as a designer like to receive from the creative director?
I think a good creative brief is like good design. It should be clear, concise, and to the point. I think it varies depending on projects, obviously. Some projects require more of a descriptive brief, but I think overall it should be short and concise.
Okay. And for this particular project, since it was a redesign, we typically have 3 methods of design that we could do for a redesign, and we go by mild, medium, or spicy, right? And mild is like pretty close to what they already had, but just revision. Medium is a little bit of distance between what they had, more close to what we would like them to be when we identify their brand attributes. And the spicy is just like completely forgetting everything that we thought of before and just starting from scratch. And so for this one, we landed on which type of design?
It was the medium.
Is the medium
Right.
one, right? So it was a little bit of a departure from what they had, but still memorable because they had quite a big following, and we didn't want to have too much of a shock.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you got the brief, what is the very first step? Like, what do you do with that?
So before I even get on the computer or even start sketching, I'll spend half an hour to an hour perusing design books or whatnot. I think what's cool about being a designer is that there's so many sources of inspiration, whether it be going outside, taking a walk, observing the environment, looking at signs, advertisements. After that, I will tend to go to the old sketchbook where I can, refine my ideas.
Okay, so for them, for Mid-India, we had a pretty extensive strategy document, which is like 60-something pages, and then part of that includes brand attributes and what we're looking for in regards to design. So did you like sit on that for a day and then just think about ideas before you went to sketching, or?
Honestly, I briefly looked at it,
Okay.
and then I'll just like I said, go on to inspiration and then just exploring ideas.
Okay. And so is this your sketchbook with some of your first sketches?
Yes, sir. That's it.
So walk us through some of the, this is the very first one?
Yeah. So
This is pretty close to what we actually landed on too.
yeah, so I think there's a misconception that a lot of designers think that they can't sketch because they're not good artists. But I think as long as you get the essence of the idea on paper, that's good enough for you to go forward with an idea.
Very cool. And so this is the very first sketch that she did.
So
Right.
yeah, obviously this is a really terrible, inaccurate shape of India, but I did manage to get the idea.
Okay, so in this, were you thinking like this is going to be like a medium type of design or medium type of change from what they had before?
Medium, yeah.
Yeah. So what were some of the faults that you saw with their old logo, and what were you trying to address or change?
I think it looked too generic and it didn't stand out from the competitors that they have.
Cool. So then you went from sketch to what? To straight to Illustrator?
So yeah, once I get a few ideas, usually I axe the first and second ideas. Usually those are ideas that somebody else has come up with. So once I'm ready, I'll take it into Illustrator, and it's just a matter of execution from there on.
And this is a picture of their old logo for Mid-India Christian Mission.
Right. So like I said, very generic and doesn't really stand out amongst the crowd.
Yeah, and then one of the things that we noticed too is that the icon, it's really detailed. It's like a detailed outline of India, which if you're looking at that on a mobile phone or if you're looking on smaller devices, it's really hard to see what that is. And so you got that and you said, okay, if we're going to go with a medium design, something that's kind of similar and memorable from their primary brand, but still closer to what we were looking for, these were your initial sketches.
Right. First thing that came to mind is try to utilize some negative space.
Okay. And so you didn't scan this in and copy it into Illustrator, you just went straight to Illustrator.
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah. I usually try to begin nice and neat here, and then it just grows into this out of control artboard.
Very cool. So this is a pretty much different explorations of the same type of concept.
Right.
So we're stealing colors from things
Borrowing.
Borrowing. Okay, gotcha. I think they say a good artist is really someone who knows how to hide his sources, right?
That's right. So here's some references that I was looking at.
Okay,
Things
very
that
cool.
have been done before and what we needed to differentiate from.
Gotcha. And then you went from here to a couple of Stylescapes, right? And so a Stylescape is really just a design deliverable that shows what a brand concept could look like in different applications. And so we want to see how that brand can be used when it comes to the type, as well as business cards or print collateral or the website. And so when we're showing a client, we're not just showing them a mark, we're showing them how that mark could be used in different applications. Okay, so this is the Stylescape. So basically we went from concept idea to sketch. You landed on a sketch. This is the concept that we wanted to lead off with to show the client. And then you went into illustration, which is really messy, but instead of sending me all of that stuff, you want to send it in a Stylescape, which is a more refined look at what the brand could look like.
Right.
Okay, so what was some of your thoughts in creating this?
So basically here we wanted to give a lot of white space, a lot of negative space, clean imagery, and basically just try to follow what the client asked for in the strategy document.
Okay, and then over here I see we have some icons, and I'm assuming you didn't create these from scratch yet. We just showed those. What was the thought behind that?
Again, just simple iconography as the client requested.
Yeah, so one of the things the client wanted for this particular design, they hated clutter. They wanted it to be simplified. They wanted to have restraint in design, and they really leaned towards minimal design, but their old stuff didn't really look like that. And so this is an example of what it could look like to utilize some of those elements that they were asking for. So this is a Stylescape, and I don't even think we really showed the client this. This was really for my reference. And then go ahead and open up the strategy document. This is something that we're presenting to the client, how we're going to pitch to the client the design ideas. And so they have this really detailed logo of India, and we wanted to make it more simplified, more on the abstract side. Okay, so this is mild. This is really like not changing the brand much at all. So I think we used a different typeface. Okay, so this is some of the logic as to why it makes more sense than what they currently had, right? So very similar yet simplified icon designed to be scalable, conveys Christian mission in India, larger, more prominent brand descriptor, similar yet more playful modern typeface, updated MICM blue. So, okay, we're showing them some logic there, and then this is
responsive.
Okay, so what is a responsive logo?
Basically, it should be used in different contexts, which will be like a favicon or a print ad or a large banner, whatever it may be.
Okay, so how the logos nowadays, they aren't just on print material, they're on all kinds of different devices that we're looking at it. So how does a logo scale from large to small for different contexts? Okay, here's the medium. So this is one that's close to what we actually landed on. Which is a little bit more of a departure than what they had. And it's kind of interesting. You had the logo mark on the right side as opposed to the left, and we're still using that negative space here. Okay, go to the next one. So that's the responsiveness and what it could look like on some different materials. Okay. And then spicy. Now this spicy really isn't too spicy. This could have been a lot more spicy, but from gauging this particular client, the threshold for how much we are willing to depart from what was already in existence, there wasn't a high threshold for that. So even the spicy version is still medium. So what's more spicy about this than the medium?
Well, for one, the shape is more abstracted, and then obviously the colors are a lot different than the original one.
Right. Okay, and then let's see what we actually landed on. And then this is what we actually ended up landing on, which is really, it looks like it's a mixture of the medium and then the more spicy. So they wanted the spicy color palette with a medium layout.
Minus the cross, obviously.
Minus the cross, which I'm really glad they did because it was kind of cliche. And what's cool about this mark is it's iconic so that we can use this mark kind of as a standalone. And how did we address the issue with some of their sub-brands? Do you have an example of that?
Yeah.
Cool. And so this is what we landed on, which is really a mixture of the medium and the spicy. So we use the same format of the medium minus the cutout of the cross, the negative space, and then we use the color palette of the spicy. And the way we're using negative space is to cut out icons in the main logo mark that are applicable to the sub-brands.
Right.
Right, so now the goal here, hopefully it was achieved, was to have an iconic, memorable logo mark that is definitely the dominating icon for the brand, and then some sub-brands that definitely look like they are part of the same family. So this is a brand style guide. Now, you created brand style guides before you started working here, and you've seen these before. How long have you seen a brand style guide be? Like how many pages?
The most I've seen is about 80 pages.
80 pages.
Yeah.
Do you like them that detailed?
No.
No. Okay.
For obvious reasons. It takes a long time to design, and sometimes it hinders designers with creativity.
Yeah. So we've incorporated here what we call a brand poster. It's a single one-page, or it's a simple one-page design that kind of just shows some applications of the brand. So why don't you show us, like, what are we looking at here for them?
So the first section is usually the identity, the multiple versions or variations of the logo that can be utilized. We got a color palette, we got typography, and a few examples of how to utilize the typography.
Right, and I like that you're not showing the entire alphabet or anything, but you're showing, like, this is what the font is, and this is an example of how it's used.
Yeah. And then some other ways the icon or the logo can be utilized as a design element.
Cool, so we have this as like this little striped element, and I could see this in like maybe as a background element for a website or for a publication or something like that.
That's right.
And then what are you doing over here?
And here is an example of a tightly cropped section of logo, which can then again be used as a design element.
So yeah, so the brand poster is a really good way for designers to have rules and guides to say this is what we look like, this is what our brand designs or our brand guides should be, but it's not so extensive that it's restrictive to our brand or a designer can't use creative freedom in whatever it is they're designing. Awesome. So that is a brand identity system, and I think like your process, because I've seen your process a little bit behind the scenes on some other things, and it seems like it fluctuates differently based off what the the client is. And so this is just one example of how we've done this for this particular organization. I don't think this is like necessarily a rule that you follow step by step, but this is, I think, a pretty concise way of doing it. So you go from strategy, concept idea, to sketching, straight to Illustrator. Then you develop a Stylescape to show some contextual applications. Then you show that in the presentation to the client. Once you get approval and feedback, then you can develop something more refined, which is like this brand poster. And then you could do other things like now develop the website and some different publications and their stationery material, stuff like that.